The news of President Clara Kepler's assassination spread like wildfire, faster than any could have imagined. Broadcasts across the globe and across space carried the shocking announcement. The image of Kepler, once full of life, now lifeless in the cold vacuum of the conference room, struck a chord with every person who had seen her speak. Her calm yet firm leadership had steered humanity to a new era of unity. Her death was a devastating blow to Earth's morale and spirit, but it also ignited something in the hearts of every human who heard the news. Fury. The Galactic Empire, known for its brutality and control, had made a calculated move. They claimed that it was an unfortunate accident, an unforeseen malfunction during an official discussion. But humanity was not foolish. Those who knew Kepler, who had spoken with her just hours before her death, knew she had been too important to the galaxy for her death to be a mere accident. Kepler was not just a political leader. She was a symbol of hope for an entire species, a bridge between Earth and the alien races in the galaxy. Her assassination sent a powerful message, and it was clear to Earth's leaders that the Empire had underestimated humanity's resolve. The grief was palpable across Earth. Cities held vigils for the fallen leader, and the air was thick with mourning. Flags were lowered to half-mast, and people stood in silence for hours, reflecting on the life Kepler had led. But in those quiet moments, something else was building. A storm of anger, of outrage. President Kepler's death had pushed humanity past the point of diplomatic discussions. The Empire had gone too far. The response came quickly, and it was unlike anything the Empire could have predicted. Governments around the world began to speak with one voice, a single, unified message. Earth was no longer fractured into petty nations and divided interests. It was a planet determined to avenge the loss of its greatest leader. Earth's leaders met in secret, but the unity was undeniable. No nation could afford to sit on the sidelines, not when their people had been so brutally targeted. As the morning sun rose over the globe, the first statement was issued. "We will not rest until justice is served," the message began, transmitted across every communication channel. It was not just a warning to the Galactic Empire, it was a declaration. Humanity would stand together, and they would make the Empire pay for its actions. Earth was no longer a fractured planet. It was a united force. The Galactic Empire, far across the stars, watched in disbelief. They had thought of humanity as a lesser species, one easily controlled, easily manipulated. They had considered Earth a resource, something to be used to further their own ambitions. But humanity's unexpected unity, its response to a single, senseless act of violence, was something they hadn't planned for. They had underestimated the human will to fight for justice, for freedom, for their fallen leader. In the quiet halls of power, the leaders of the Galactic Empire debated their next move. Some believed the humans would buckle under pressure, that they would quickly fall into despair. But others feared the consequences of underestimating Earth's fury. The question on everyone's mind was the same. Had they unleashed something they could not control? As the message from Earth spread to the farthest reaches of space, one thing became clear. Humanity was not just a world to be conquered. They had just taken their first step into the fight for their survival, and they would not stop until their enemy was brought to its knees. The world was no longer just a collection of countries and leaders with their own separate interests. In the wake of President Kepler's assassination, Earth's governments acted with unprecedented unity. The outrage that had spread like wildfire after Kepler's death fueled something deeper, a fierce determination to make the Galactic Empire pay for their cold, calculated act of violence. It didn't matter what political alliances had once existed or what past conflicts had divided nations. Humanity's collective anger had woven them into a single force. Every nation on Earth, from the smallest island nations to the largest superpowers, pledged their allegiance to one cause: vengeance. Leaders who had once bickered over trade agreements and military spending now found themselves in agreement over one thing. They would work together to bring justice to their people. The United Nations, once a forum for diplomatic discussion, became a war council. President Kepler's death was not just an assault on Earth's leadership. It was an attack on the very future of humanity's place in the galaxy. Earth was no longer simply a colony of the stars. It was a full-fledged player on the galactic stage. And the message to the Galactic Empire was clear. Humanity would not sit idly by and let this injustice stand. For weeks, the world's best minds came together in a flurry of activity. Military leaders and strategists were called upon to plan Earth's next moves. Engineers worked overtime, combining old technologies with the remnants of alien tech humanity had acquired in previous space explorations. Earth's forces began to strengthen in ways no one could have predicted. Spacecrafts were upgraded, planetary defenses were enhanced, and alliances were formed with the goal of fighting back. In every major city, soldiers and civilians alike began to prepare. Earth's military forces were put on high alert. Civilians who had once lived peaceful lives now found themselves training for a war they never thought would come. The preparations were intense, but there was an undeniable sense of purpose in every corner of the planet. Earth was no longer passive. It was gearing up for a fight. And for the first time in human history, every nation on Earth was aligned for a singular cause. The people of Earth, united in their grief and rage, rallied behind their leaders. Memorials for President Kepler popped up in every city, but they were no longer just places of mourning. They became symbols of a world ready to rise up. Posters with the words "Justice for Kepler" adorned every wall, and public speeches echoed across the globe, urging every citizen to take part in the coming struggle. Humanity's resolve was unwavering. There was no turning back. As Earth's military forces strengthened, humanity's voice grew louder across the galaxy. Messages were sent to the Galactic Empire, demanding accountability and justice for the murder of their president. The Empire, arrogant and dismissive, ignored these messages. They assumed that humanity would soon grow tired of the rhetoric, that they would return to their fragmented ways. But they had grossly underestimated the human spirit. The Empire's intelligence network had been closely monitoring Earth's movements, but they failed to see the bigger picture. They didn't recognize the potential of a united humanity, a species that had endured hardships and emerged stronger each time. They didn't account for the strength of a species that would rise up not just to avenge a leader, but to secure its place in the galaxy. Earth's leaders issued their final statement. This is not just about one death. This is about our survival. This is about our future, and we will not be silenced. The stage was set. Humanity was no longer just a part of the galaxy's landscape. They had become a force to be reckoned with. The war against the Galactic Empire was coming, and Earth was ready. It wasn't long before Earth made its first move. The Galactic Empire, convinced that humanity would crumble in the face of their power, had left Earth vulnerable. The Empire believed they could bide their time, that the human anger would eventually subside, but they were wrong. In a stunning act of defiance, Earth's military launched a surprise attack, a bold move designed to show the Empire that humanity would not wait for justice. They were coming for it, and they would fight for it every step of the way. The first strike was not some grand space battle. Instead, it was a precise and calculated operation, a message sent directly to the Empire's doorstep. A small, specialized fleet, a mix of Earth's newest warships, covert operatives, and skilled pilots, targeted an Empire supply convoy making its way through the asteroid belt just outside Earth's orbital path. The convoy, carrying essential resources to support the Empire's forces, was essential to their plans, and the humans knew it. Using their superior knowledge of the local space terrain, humans managed to set up a well-planned ambush. The fleet, small but deadly, emerged from the shadows of asteroids, catching the convoy off guard. With lightning speed, they disabled the convoy's communications, cutting off any chance of reinforcements. The humans moved in quickly, targeting key vessels with precision and minimizing damage to the cargo. The goal was clear: take out the convoy without causing a full-scale battle, and send a message to the Empire that Earth could hit them where it hurt. The fight was brief, but it was decisive. The convoy was destroyed, leaving nothing but wreckage drifting in the cold void of space. The victory wasn't just about the resources they had stolen or the military strike. It was about showing the Empire that Earth was not the helpless backwater they thought it was. Humanity had just struck its first blow in a war that was about to explode across the galaxy. As news of the attack spread, Earth's leaders issued a chilling message. "This is just the beginning," they declared. "You've attacked our people. Now we will show you what humanity is capable of." The Empire, initially stunned by the sudden assault, dismissed it as a fluke, a desperate move by a species they considered inferior. They believed the humans had overestimated their strength and would quickly fall back into submission. But behind closed doors, Empire officials were uneasy. This attack wasn't a random act of defiance. It was calculated and precise. The humans had planned this carefully, and they had struck first, something the Empire wasn't prepared for. In the days that followed, the Empire began to make preparations for retaliation. They sent ships to Earth's space to reassert their dominance. But the message had been sent. Humanity wasn't backing down. The Earth fleet, now reinforced with new ships and stronger technology, had proven that they could not only defend their home but strike back. Humanity's forces were more organized, more innovative, and more determined than ever before. But the attack was more than just a symbol. It was a declaration. Earth's military had proven they could hit the Empire where it hurt, and they were only getting started. The first strike wasn't just about vengeance. It was a message to the entire galaxy. Humanity would not be silenced, and the Empire had awakened a force they could no longer ignore. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were about to pay the price. In retaliation for Earth's audacious attack on their supply convoy, the Galactic Empire assembled an immense fleet, determined to crush Earth's forces once and for all. The fleet, a terrifying combination of warships, dreadnoughts, and heavily armed cruisers, moved toward Earth's sector with a single purpose: annihilate any resistance and send a message to the galaxy that humanity's defiance would not be tolerated. But the humans were ready. General Marcus Gray, a seasoned military strategist, knew that Earth's forces were still relatively small compared to the Empire's vast armada. However, one thing that had always given humanity an edge was their ingenuity. General Gray had spent days meticulously planning a counteroffensive, not in Earth's orbit, where they'd be overpowered, but at a more neutral location, the Andromeda Station. A former neutral space station, Andromeda was now a human stronghold, built from the ruins of previous space exploration missions. It was the perfect location to launch an ambush, and humanity intended to make the most of it. As the Empire's fleet neared Andromeda Station, they believed they had the upper hand. The humans, they thought, would flee in terror, as they always had. But instead, the human forces had set a trap. General Gray's plan was brilliant. Use the station's complex layout to their advantage, hiding humanity's most advanced ships in the station's shadow. The goal was simple: force the Empire's fleet to split up and engage them on humanity's terms. The battle began with a sudden, unexpected attack. Earth's fleet emerged from hidden positions, launching a barrage of missiles and energy blasts that crippled the Empire's forward ships. The Empire's fleet was thrown into chaos, with commanders scrambling to reorganize and mount a defense. But humanity was relentless. The humans used Andromeda's internal systems against the invaders, causing massive disruptions in the Empire's communication and targeting systems. With the Empire's fleet scattered and disoriented, humanity moved in for the kill. The battle raged for hours, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The Empire's superior numbers and firepower were still formidable, but the humans fought with a ferocity that surprised even the most hardened Empire officers. Every ship, every soldier, every fighter was determined to avenge the death of President Kepler and prove that Earth would no longer be a passive target. The space around Andromeda Station became a chaotic battlefield, filled with explosions, flashes of light, and the sounds of fierce combat. But humanity's strategy began to take hold. Slowly, the Empire's ships were picked off one by one, their once pristine formations reduced to a broken, retreating mess. Earth's ships moved with precision, cutting through the Empire's forces like a knife through butter. The humans used guerrilla tactics, hit and run, ambushes, and traps, to wear down the Empire's fleet, knowing they couldn't match them in raw strength, but they could outsmart them. By the time the battle ended, the Empire's fleet was decimated. Andromeda Station, heavily damaged but still standing, had become a symbol of human resilience. The Empire's commanders, humiliated and frustrated, ordered a retreat. They had not only lost an important fleet, but had been shown that humans could stand toe-to-toe with them, outmaneuver them, and win. The victory at Andromeda Station was a turning point in the war. The Empire, once so confident in its dominance, now knew that humanity would never back down. The galaxy would never look at Earth the same way again. And humanity, emboldened by their triumph, knew they had the strength to take on the might of the Empire. General Gray, looking out at the remnants of the battle, knew this was just the beginning. The war had only just begun, but one thing was certain: humanity was ready. The victory at Andromeda Station had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. Earth, once considered a minor player on the galactic stage, had just scored a decisive win against the Empire, and the message was clear: humanity was not to be underestimated. But the battle at Andromeda was just one step in the war, and General Marcus Gray knew that Earth couldn't win this fight alone. The Empire was vast, and its power extended across the galaxy. To defeat them, humanity would need allies, but that wouldn't be easy. The Galactic Empire had a reputation for ruthlessness that kept many potential allies in fear. However, the Empire's tyranny had pushed more and more alien races to the breaking point. Some had been conquered by the Empire, others had been oppressed or forced into servitude. Over time, the oppressive grip of the Empire had sparked a quiet rebellion in the shadows, one that had been growing for years. In the wake of humanity's victory at Andromeda, covert messages began to reach Earth's leaders. These messages came from representatives of these oppressed races, rebels and exiles who had seen what humanity had accomplished and were ready to join the fight. The Alliance of Free Species, as it was called, was an underground network of alien races who were ready to stand against the Empire. They had been waiting for a spark, a force strong enough to challenge the Empire's might. And now that spark had arrived. One by one, these races reached out to Earth in secret, offering their support. Some offered advanced technology, while others provided intelligence about Empire movements. There were those who offered fighters, skilled warriors trained in the art of guerrilla warfare, and some offered information that would prove invaluable. Secrets about the Empire's weak points, their most vulnerable systems, and even their plans for a new superweapon that could potentially wipe out entire planets. General Gray, wary but hopeful, began meeting with the representatives of these alien races. The first was a species called the Telrith, a reptilian race from the distant planet Saurus Prime. They had suffered at the hands of the Empire for centuries, their world razed and their people enslaved. They had been looking for an opportunity to strike back, and humanity's victory at Andromeda was the sign they had been waiting for. The Telrith offered humanity their advanced cloaking technology, which would allow Earth's ships to operate undetected in most hostile environments. Next came the Xaltri, a race of highly intelligent beings whose planet had been taken over by the Empire decades ago. The Xaltri had access to powerful hacking technologies, capable of breaching the Empire's communications and weapon systems. They promised to assist humanity in disrupting Empire-controlled networks, giving Earth's forces a better chance of striking at the heart of their enemies. Then there was the Vesari, a nomadic race of highly skilled mercenaries who had long worked for the highest bidder. The Vesari, though reluctant to align with any side, saw the Empire as a threat to their way of life. After seeing humanity's capabilities firsthand, they offered their combat skills and fleets to aid in the war. They'd brought with them a fleet of heavily armed warships, perfect for launching hit-and-run operations against the Empire. The more alliances humanity forged, the more its power grew. Earth was no longer fighting alone. It had a growing coalition of allies at its side, each bringing their strengths to the table. The rebel fleet, now composed of a diverse array of species, began to strike against Empire targets with precision. They hit supply lines, destroyed weapons caches, and sabotaged Empire installations. Each success was a victory not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. But with every victory came more attention from the Empire. Their intelligence network began to catch wind of the growing alliance, and the Emperor, once confident in his Empire's invincibility, began to realize the true scale of the threat. But no matter how hard the Empire tried to suppress this rebellion, the alliance of free species was growing stronger every day. Humanity's role in this new galactic resistance was becoming clearer. They weren't just fighting for revenge anymore. They were fighting for the freedom of all species oppressed by the Empire. And Earth's determination was starting to inspire others across the galaxy. General Gray stood in the war room, looking at the holographic map of the galaxy, now dotted with the flags of their new allies. The war was far from over, but with each passing day, humanity and its allies grew bolder, more capable, and more determined to bring down the Empire once and for all. The Galactic Empire was in turmoil. After losing several key battles, including the humiliating defeat at Andromeda Station, the Empire's leadership was scrambling to regain control. The Emperor, once the unquestioned ruler of the galaxy, could no longer afford to underestimate the humans or their newfound allies. His arrogance had blinded him, and now his empire was on the brink of collapse. In the Emperor's private chambers, a dark and brooding atmosphere hung over him. His advisors, once full of confidence, were now cautious in their recommendations. They had lost too much, too quickly, and the whispers of rebellion grew louder by the day. The Emperor's once unified control over the galaxy was cracking, and in the shadows of his palace, conspirators began to emerge. "What is the status of the rebellion?" the Emperor asked, his voice cold and controlled, though his fury was palpable. His main advisor, High Commander Zarek, bowed low before speaking. "Your Excellency, the humans, along with their allies, are proving more formidable than we anticipated. Their coordination is exceptional, and they have crippled several of our key operations. We have begun to lose control of our outer sectors." The Emperor's face darkened. He had always believed that fear was the greatest weapon to control the galaxy, and now that fear was slipping away. Earth and its growing alliance had managed to turn the tables, and the Empire's once imposing fleet was now on the defensive. "We must break them," the Emperor muttered to himself. "I will not allow this rebellion to disrupt my vision." With a sudden surge of determination, the Emperor turned to his fleet commanders, who had gathered in the chamber. "We will strike at the heart of this resistance. We will break their resolve and make an example of Earth." Zarek nodded, understanding the Emperor's intent. "We have identified their leadership. If we can eliminate General Gray and the key leaders of their alliance, we can dismantle their unity. The rebels have no central command. Without their leaders, they will scatter." The Emperor's lips curled into a thin smile. "Then it's settled. We will launch a final decisive attack against their forces and crush their leadership." The Empire's plan was set into motion with ruthless efficiency. A massive fleet, led by the Emperor's personal flagship, the Imperial Dominance, was dispatched to eliminate the heart of the rebellion. The target, a secret base deep within the Outer Rim, where General Gray and the leaders of the Alliance of Free Species had gathered for a crucial strategy meeting. The attack was swift and merciless. With the full force of the Empire's military at their disposal, they descended upon the base, overwhelming its defenses in a matter of hours. General Gray had anticipated an attack, but the scale and ferocity of this assault were unlike anything he had prepared for. The base's shields were quickly breached, and the enemy forces began to land troops. intent on capturing or killing the leaders of the rebellion. General Gray, fully aware of the gravity of the situation, made a decision. "We cannot let them capture us," he said to his inner circle. "We have to fight, but we need to buy time for the others to escape." As the first waves of Empire forces breached the base's outer walls, Gray and his team made their stand, leading the defense. The rebels fought valiantly, their determination and unity shining through in the face of overwhelming odds. But despite their bravery, the Empire's forces were too great. The leadership of the Alliance was at risk. On the Imperial flagship, the Emperor watched the battle unfold through a series of live feeds. His cold gaze was fixed on the screens, savoring the moment he believed would mark the end of the rebellion. General Gray, a thorn in the Empire's side, was about to fall. But what the Emperor didn't know was that his attack was only part of a larger plan. The rebellion had anticipated this assault, and the moment the Empire moved in, humanity's allies had been ready to strike from the shadows. As the Empire's forces closed in on the rebel leaders, a new wave of fighters emerged from the darkness, led by the Vesari mercenaries. They hit the Empire's flanks with devastating precision, their ships bursting through the enemy ranks. At the same time, the Telrith warships, equipped with their advanced cloaking technology, appeared from hidden positions, launching a series of surprise attacks on the Imperial fleet. The battle was far from over. The Emperor's plans to crush the rebellion were falling apart, and his forces were now caught in a deadly trap of their own making. The Empire's soldiers, once so confident in their victory, now found themselves fighting for their lives. General Gray, seeing the tide turn, rallied his forces. "We fight until the last," he shouted. "For Kepler, for Earth, for freedom." The rebel forces, empowered by their allies and their unbreakable will, fought back with renewed strength. The Emperor's wrath had been met with the fury of a united galaxy, and the battle for the future of the galaxy was far from over. The battle raged across the outer rim, and the once confident Imperial forces were now on the defensive. The Rebel Alliance had turned the tide, and the Emperor's plan to crush humanity and its newfound allies was quickly falling apart. But the Emperor, never one to accept failure, had one last, desperate measure left to play. A final gamble that would either destroy the rebellion or cement his rule forever. On the Imperial dominance, the Emperor paced furiously, his fingers steepled in thought. His once pristine fleet had been torn apart by the unexpected arrival of the Vesari and Telrith, and his personal guard had been overrun by the relentless human resistance. The tide of the battle was shifting, but the Emperor wasn't ready to accept defeat. His mind raced, seeking the solution to salvage what was left of his empire. His solution came with a terrifyingly simple idea. If he could not win by overwhelming force, then he would win through fear. "I will take the fight directly to Earth," he said to High Commander Zarek, his voice low and menacing. "The humans believe they can defeat me. It's time they understand the full extent of my power." Zarek, ever loyal but increasingly wary, hesitated. "Your Excellency, we've suffered devastating losses. If we strike at Earth now, it could provoke a full-scale retaliation from their allies." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "If Earth's forces are defeated here, the allies will scatter. They are nothing without their human leaders. Earth will fall in line, or they will burn." And so, the Emperor made his decision. He would deploy the Empire's secret weapon, the Oblivion Cannon, a colossal superweapon capable of destroying entire planets with a single shot. The Oblivion Cannon had been in development for years, and its power was unimaginable. It had the capacity to wipe Earth off the map, and with it, any hope of humanity's rebellion. As the Emperor activated the weapon, it began its journey from the depths of the Empire's territory, making its way toward Earth's solar system. The Oblivion Cannon was fast, but it would take a few days to arrive. In that time, General Gray and his forces would have to make one final stand. On Earth, the news of the Emperor's final weapon spread like wildfire. The rebellion, although on the offensive in the Outer Rim, knew they had to act fast. General Gray gathered his council to make the most difficult decision yet. "We can't let this weapon reach Earth," Gray said grimly. "If we don't stop it, everything we fought for will be lost. We need to move quickly." The rebellion's leaders convened in secret to form a daring plan, a mission that would require all the courage and strength they had left. They would have to intercept the Oblivion Cannon before it reached Earth and destroy it. But this wasn't just any mission. It would require them to go directly into the heart of enemy space, where the Empire's forces were still regrouping after their defeat. The plan was simple but perilous. A small fleet, led by General Gray himself, would infiltrate the Empire's territory, locate the Oblivion Cannon, and destroy it. The mission would take them deep into the heart of Imperial-controlled space, where they would face overwhelming odds. But with no other choice, Gray and his team prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. As they launched into hyperspace, the weight of the task before them pressed heavily on their shoulders. The Emperor's weapon was a reminder of the stakes they were facing. If they failed, Earth would burn. But if they succeeded, the Empire's most devastating weapon would be neutralized, and the rebellion would have a fighting chance to win. The fleet entered enemy space under the cover of stealth, avoiding Imperial patrols and monitoring systems. Their destination was clear: the Oblivion Cannon, a fortress of destruction that would soon arrive at Earth's doorstep. Their objective: to disable the weapon and, if possible, destroy it entirely. As the fleet moved closer to the weapon's location, General Gray knew that time was running out. The Oblivion Cannon was only days away from reaching Earth, and if they didn't act fast, the rebellion would lose everything. But this mission wasn't just about saving Earth. It was about proving that the Empire could be stopped, that even the most overwhelming force could be defeated by determination, unity, and courage. With the Oblivion Cannon now in sight, General Gray took a deep breath and gave the order to strike. The Oblivion Cannon loomed ahead, a massive construct of twisted metal and pulsating energy, its dark silhouette casting a shadow across the starry expanse. The weapon, capable of annihilating entire planets, had been humanity's greatest fear. But now, it was their last hope to overcome the Empire's reign of terror. General Marcus Gray and his fleet had made it this far, infiltrating deep into enemy-controlled space to face the most dangerous mission of their lives. Time was running out, and they had no choice but to strike. "Approaching the target zone," said Lieutenant Valeria, Gray's trusted second-in-command. "We've detected minimal defense arrays. We might have a window to breach the weapon's hull before they notice us." Gray nodded, his jaw clenched in determination. The odds were still stacked against them. The Oblivion Cannon was protected by a heavily fortified system of defense shields, automated drones, and automated turrets, all controlled from a central command center aboard the weapon itself. If they could get close enough to plant a series of high-energy explosives on the weapon's main reactor, they might have a chance to destroy it before it could be fired. He glanced at the holographic display in front of him, showing the approaching weapon in greater detail. His fleet was small, but it was fast. They had only one shot at this, and failure meant the complete annihilation of Earth. "All ships, prepare for a high-speed intercept. Once we breach their perimeter, we will need to move fast," Gray ordered. "We don't have time for hesitation. Everyone has a role to play." The fleet surged forward, breaking through the silence of deep space. With their advanced cloaking technology, they managed to evade the majority of the weapon's automated defenses, but a few Imperial fighter squadrons soon detected their presence. A series of alarms echoed through the command center as the Empire's fighters closed in, ready to make their final stand. "Brace for impact," Lieutenant Valeria shouted as enemy fire erupted across their shields. Explosions rocked the fleet as blaster fire and energy beams zipped past them. The rebels had come too far to turn back now. The fleet's smaller, more nimble ships broke away from the main formation, darting between enemy fire as they navigated toward the Oblivion Cannon. Gray's flagship, the Freedom's Edge, took the brunt of the fire, with its shields flickering under the strain. Yet, despite the chaos around them, the rebel fleet continued to press forward with unyielding resolve. Almost there, Gray muttered under his breath, eyes locked on the weapon's vulnerable access points. A moment of clarity hit him. They needed to act fast. There was no turning back. The enemy fighters swarmed around them, but the rebels were swift. The Vesari mercenaries led a charge, drawing the enemy's fire and creating gaps for Gray's team to slip through. The Telrith, with their cloaking technology, took out key turrets, providing cover for the rest of the fleet. "Target the reactor," Gray barked. "We hit them here, or we lose everything." As the fleet drew within striking distance of the Oblivion cannon, a barrage of enemy fire erupted from the superweapon itself. But it wasn't enough to stop the determined rebels. The fighters from Earth's fleet engaged in a fierce dogfight, locking down the remaining enemy ships, while a handful of elite pilots made their way straight toward the heart of the cannon. Gray's shuttle, flanked by a pair of stealth fighters, came in low over the Oblivion cannon, dodging fire from its defensive arrays. With a burst of speed, the shuttle's landing gear locked into place on the weapon's surface. Gray and his team burst out, planting the high-energy charges as enemy drones swarmed around them, launching blasts of plasma in an attempt to stop them. Seconds felt like hours as they worked quickly, setting the explosive charges around the reactor. The countdown clock ticked down. They were cutting it dangerously close. Gray's heart raced as explosions rang out in the distance, signaling the growing chaos around them. "We're done," shouted Sergeant Holt, the demolitions expert, just as the final charge was planted. "Get clear, now." With the charges in place, the rebels ran for cover, their shuttle firing up as they narrowly avoided the hail of plasma blasts. But the Oblivion cannon wasn't done. The weapon was prepared to fire, and Gray knew there was no time to lose. The shuttle lifted off just as the final detonation was triggered. In an instant, the entire Oblivion cannon erupted in a blinding flash of light. A shockwave rippled through the space around them, shaking their ships to their cores. As the dust settled, the once mighty superweapon was reduced to nothing but fragments of twisted metal and burning wreckage. "Mission complete," Gray said, his voice steady but filled with relief. "The Oblivion cannon is no more. We've won." But even as victory echoed in his ears, Gray knew that the fight was far from over. The Empire would retaliate, and there were still battles to be fought. However, the destruction of the Oblivion cannon had crippled the Empire's most powerful weapon, and Earth's place in the galaxy was secure, for now.